Dispatch to Quint 9.
Go ahead, dispatch.
Some updates for you on this. Our caller had to jump out of the window. Apparently the house is full of smoke and it's billowing out of the top floors. The house is behind the Auction Direct car dealership. I'm currently working on getting the gate to the dealership open so that you can access the home.
10-4, thank you, dispatch.
Quint 9, police are going to ram the gate in order to open it because the keys are in the house that is on fire.
10-4, dispatch. Dispatch, give me the balance. A second alarm, please.
10-4, bouncing.
Dispatch, give me a second alarm for as well, please.
Dispatch, District 3.
Go ahead.
Dispatch, do you have any further details on this?
No further additional details. The male was coughing from the smoke inhalation. He has apparently had to jump out of the window. The house was full of smoke, and it's billowing out of the top floor.
Okay, copy that. Can we go ahead and start the rehab?
10-4.
Dispatch, he's just on the way as well.
Yes, they are.
Dispatch 9, Quint.
9 Quint.
Dispatch 9, Quint arrival. We have a medium two-story house. We have heavy smoke showing on the alpha side. We'll be in the defense strategy, stretching a 1¾ inch attack line. We show Captain Vasto assuming Sackville Drive command, conducting at 360.
10-4, medium's two-story house, heavy smoke on alpha, defensive strategy, establishing command and performing through 360.
9 Quint, command, let me know when you want your water. Dispatch command.
Command, go.
Go ahead. Yeah, dispatch command, 360 fleet. Mars to be on the second floor. We're making entry on the alpha side, defensive strategy. 8 engine up on your arrival. There should be a hydrant before you make entry. I'm getting to catch speed. Grab a secondary line, make your way to the first floor, which is to be established. Command, 9 Quint. Go ahead. Let me know when you want your water. 10-4. I think you can see right 9 Quint.
Command 8 engine arrival.
9 Quint, this is command. Charge the line. Command 9 Quint, charge the line.
Command 8 engine. Yeah, we're level 1. We're making our way up.
10-4.
Dispatch to command.
Tanker operator, Firefighter Joshi. Stand by, Shravin. We almost got her gun stretched. 10-4. Command 9 Quint. Command 9 Quint. Go ahead, command. Have a tank of water, Captain, 250 gallons. Hydrant from Captain Terrio, send the water. 10-4, send water. 9 Quint, water supply, charge the hydrant. Command, you show TAC 12 on scene. We're not going to make our way back with a feed in the way. We're just going to walk back.
Command, this 8 engine. We're making our way in with some tools.
Ready. We get the flag below us. Ready. Dispatch, we have a Mayday. Clear all lines. Dispatch, Mayday. Mayday. Command and dispatch, are you reading? We have a Mayday.
Dispatch to command, copy, firefighter down, Mayday.
Command's District 2 on arrival.
Command, unit with Mayday. Can you tell me your location?
We're on the second floor. I'm supposed to be there for 5. Copy, second floor. Are you able to extricate? Are you able to extricate on your own? I'm not sure. Copy, not sure. Do you have a sound floor? I'm sending 8 in to get you out. Need help.
Command Quinn 7 arrival.
Command 45 arrival.
Mike Quint, 10 taker. Lines charged. Second floor, unit with Mayday, 9 Quint. Give me a report. 8, Rit from command. Give me a report. This is 8 engine. We've located 9 Quint crew. We're bringing them down. Copy, located 9 Quint, bringing them down. Dispatch, send me some more additional units, at least 2 more EHS additional units.
10-4.
8 from command. We're ladder in the second floor for extrication. Dispatch, District 3.
DC3.
Dispatch, this is DC3. I'm in command here. We have both units out of the building at this time. 9 Quint and 8 both have a power.
10-4. All units out of the building, we have power.
Captain Jake Green, Station 8. When we arrived on scene after Page show from the station, we drove down Sackville Drive. We landed at approximately same time 10 engine did, the same distance away, I would say, from the driveway entering the car dealership. We saw the firefighters jump off 10 engine and grab the hydrant. We were kind of up in the air if we were going to grab it or they were going to grab it. So we allowed them to grab it. They pulled forward towards us, and they continued up the driveway, the one lone driveway, to the back of the business where the house was located. I don't think any of us had a good idea that there was a house back there, so it was we were kind of behind the 8 ball right off the bat. And with 10 pulling the high ball up the driveway, it blocked the entrance for any other trucks getting in. So I made the decision to leave 8 engine parked on the street and decided to walk up with our tools and be ready to go to work. As we were walking up, we were following the high ball. I wasn't charged at the time, and as we walked by, I noticed, obviously car lot, there's cars, and then the showroom itself. Behind that was a secondary building. I assume that's where a mechanical shop, and then quite a ways behind that, the house itself. As we were walking up, we saw 10 engine had stopped. Obviously, their high vol was fully extended. Saw some scrambling, and we saw 9 Quint pulling their high vol off as well. So I made the assumption that 10 had dropped all of theirs. There wasn't enough to reach 9 Quint for the feed. Right away, I directed firefighters to assist, and myself included. We helped 9 pull the high vol, which we used all of theirs as well to make the connection to 10 to make sure that we had an established water supply. From there, after that was complete, I did a quick size up of the Alpha Delta side of the house. What I noticed was heavy smoke coming from the upstairs, heavy smoke coming from the main front door, banked down almost completely. The soffits in front of the front door on the front porch had been melted. I noticed a tiny little glow underneath the front porch, underneath the stairs. There was a lot of kids' toys, furniture, all around the porch, on the porch, underneath the deck, and I noticed a little glow. So when I looked a little further, it was a basement, what turned out to be a basement. It wasn't like flames were blowing or anything like that. It was more like there was a candle, not much to lead me to believe that there was a fire. At that point, I followed exactly what I'm trained to do. Start getting a second line ready. Started getting dressed with tools. Firefighter Jason Day, firefighter Amanda Boyes. And then something came across the radio when we were in the midst of that. And I remember having my mask on and starting to pull my flash hood up. And what I thought I heard is what I heard was the Mayday call, the first initial Mayday call. And I hesitated because I was unsure of what I heard. And I kind of looked at Jason Day and, kind of looked around and wondered for confirmation, was that what I thought it was? As we were kind of all still in the hesitation mode, I started reaching for my radio to get confirmation on the Mayday. And that's when firefighter engineer Darren Casey picked up his mic and came across and confirmed with dispatch that there was a Mayday call. I remember I remember hearing Darren relay that, and as he relayed it or had just finished, a secondary Mayday call was made, and that's when, in my mind, it was confirmed that there was an issue. It's not a good feeling. I felt the need, everything that we trained for kind of went out the door at that point. Hats off to my crew because, like I said, all my training kind of went out the door. I was more concerned with the guys inside. At that point there, I remember somebody, whether it was my division commander, Curry, calling me to tell me to wait to go in because we didn't have a location on them. And I remember hearing that, or it might have been firefighter Jason Day. Really lucky to have the crew I had. I consider them, excellent firefighters, and I'm glad they were with me. When we did hear the location of where they were, and I should review, what I saw when I was standing on the deck was a hose line going in. So my assumption was that they had been on the first floor and the possibility of the first floor collapse or them in the basement was what came to mind first. To find out that they were on the second floor was a bit of a surprise, but at that point there, it was just kind of a automatic reaction to follow their hose line in. There was a lot of things that I kind of thought about after the fact. Luckily though, we followed their hose line in, located the stairs, and we got right to the top. And I remember being at the top, and right from the entry point, you could not see a thing. I got to the top of the stairs, and I was lucky enough to keep one foot on the top stair and step out onto the second floor, and I felt someone. And whoever it was, I'm not sure which of the three it was, I grabbed them, and I just grabbed them and started throwing them down the stairs behind me where firefighter Day and firefighter Boyes was. And after I got the third down, we went back down the stairs because my main priority at that point was to get them out. One of the things that I remember in that instance was what turned out to be firefighter Curryluck's bell. And the bell was when you're completely out of air. It's the last couple dings. So after we threw them down the stairs, I got down and all I wanted to do was get them out. And it was interesting after the fact that when we got them down on the main floor, we were about 15 feet from the door, the front door to the exit. And they were so disoriented. They were still pushing to go the opposite way into the house. And literally, we were, myself, Day, and boys were literally strong arming them and pushing them towards the front door to get them out of the house. After we got them out, I just remember, kind of being completely out of it, and it took me a minute to regain my surroundings and my composure. I think I want to mention that DivCom Curry did a great job of really, after an incident like that, pulling everything back together and getting us back on track. He did a phenomenal job, I thought. And that was my take on it. A lot of other things came out from that I was unaware of, but that information kind of came together after the fact. It's not a good feeling, and my hope is that it doesn't happen to anybody else. If I had to do it over again, obviously with time to think about what I did, what I saw, what I observed, and what happened. Luckily, the outcome turned out okay, which I'm thankful for. I think a big thing for me was I've struggled with the question of, should I have taken command? I recognize the fact that the initial report Barry gave to what I had saw, which I think the timestamp was 2 minutes from the time he was actually entering the house to when I was standing on the porch. Conditions had changed so much that I really wish I had maybe taken or assumed command of that call from outside. I wish I had followed up on that basement window. I should have gone over. I should have, looked in. I should have confirmed it, what I saw. Maybe even done another 360 to get a better idea of the conditions. I feel like I got a little complacent on what I know I should be doing, as opposed to what I did do. A 2-cent fire. It showed me how fast things can change, and it really brought home the fact that when it does change, it's you've got to have this stuff as second nature. Your training has to be second nature, because even though I train quite a bit and I practice and I even teach this stuff, it catches you off guard, and it's still something that I look back now and question myself, what should I have done differently? I've talked to Captain Terrio lots. I've talked to Captain Basto, and I think all three of us, question what we did and how we did it. And I knock on wood that this turned out okay. I'd like to see some changes. I would like to see the skills on how we teach our Mayday possibly changed. Instead of waiting for somebody to answer, maybe we should be hitting the emergency buttons right away if you think you have a Mayday. The procedure that dispatch has when they're typing out the Mayday, maybe we could change their procedure so they actually hit the button to do emergency tones, even if it hasn't been called for by the IC. We need to, as a department, I think this call should highlight for everybody, we need to do training for this, and we do not do enough training on Mayday situations. It's going to happen again. We have high rises, we have new buildings. If anything had been different that night, I think the outcomes would have been different. You can change the fact, the position that I was at, standing outside the front door. If I had been any farther away, I might not have made it to those guys. If anything had been different, the outcomes would have been different. And that's all I can stress. If you weren't there, it's easy to armchair quarterback this, but I know for the people that were there, it was emotional, and it was a serious event. And my hope is for the younger firefighters and the younger captains that are coming up, that you never have to go through this, but I would strongly suggest practice this until it becomes second nature. You don't want to be, the worst feeling is listening to people scream inside a house and feeling defenseless that you can't help them. So everything we do, train as if it's real.
Hello, I'm Darren Casey, firefighter engineer, driving 9 Quint B Platoon, Lower Sackville. I've been asked today, and I'm glad I've been asked, to have this talk and this video in regards to the fire that we had at 115 Sackville Drive, which was behind 117 Sackville Drive. I'll take it from the aspect of me as a firefighter engineer and senior firefighter in regards to what took place. What do we, others maybe feel that we could do or change things to be different, and always try to move forward on a move forward basis and improve ourselves in any way, shape, or facet that we can. As you heard earlier from Captain Bastow on the way to the call, and that we do a lot of conversation in front of the cab. A lot of officers and drivers, they do. You're actually doing pre-tactics. The MDT now helps a lot. We're able to get a very good idea now, previous to what we used to have, outside of your ability to, know your area and do inspections and other things like that. So along the way there, we definitely was on the fact that water supply was going to be a problem. Getting in there was going to be a problem, and Captain Bastow at me at that point in time, besides balancing the alarm, went for the second alarm, which of course I felt was an excellent idea, because old school, old saying, we always say, we can send them back. Upon arrival, we had an issue with access to get back into the building. The RCMP had put themselves in a position I was not able to button hook and turn the truck into the gate. The gate was already rammed, but upon entering into the gate, I had a choice of either moving the RCMP vehicle or a couple of higher-end luxury vehicles versus a post and chain, which I'm looking in the mirror, and Captain Bastow's realizing the same situation, and bottom line, not that I needed his permission, but Barry said go. So got up and in through, went around to the back, and then that's starting to realize, even at that point in time, Barry was obviously thinking about the situation of, we're going to have a long lay here in regards to the hydrant lay. We pull up to the house, based on the driveway and the way the vehicles were set, tried to set my vehicle to give and allow that three-sided view, which we were able to do. Vehicles being parked there and that, the distance from the house was obviously going to start and create a problem, because it was vehicles that were parked there were causing me to park further away than what I would have liked to, but that wasn't my choice at the time. So standing there outside the truck, doing your thing, and even before you first get out and looking, it was one of those typical things, the 10-cent routine house fire. How many videos do we watch now since the implementation of YouTube and the ability to get video, NIOSH reports, that you hear firefighters make those comments, and you kind of go back and say, well, I'll never be making that comment someday. It's just what it is. But this was a situation that went from 10 cent to, well, can't put a dollar figure on it. Pardon the pun, but. So when the line was laid, Barry completed his 360, listening on the radio, taking whatever information I can. I'm actually stepping around to the front of the truck in that, because I always felt, and we've had these discussions before, that when you're first in the first arrival, when they're being tasked, the only other set of eyes that's able to look around or maybe pick something up can be the driver. Not that you always do, not that you always will, but that's one of the aspects, especially once they go interior, until the next arriving units or another person comes in to take command. you're at times kind of it. So the line got charged, they made access to the building, everything seemed to be going okay. Waiting for water supply. They're going in, you're hearing on the radio what they're doing, and then all of a sudden you hear what, well, words I don't want to hear again in my career on a fire scene. Training by all means, videos by all means. I don't ever want to hear those words again. And the sad part was, when it was occurring, you're almost in a state of surreal. It's a dream. I'm going to tell all of you right now, standing there at that moment, your brain's actually saying to you, is this happening? And then you're looking around and trying to react, figure out what it is you have to do, and you're pretty all on your own. And then, unbelievable when suddenly you see 10 tanker come up and they're laying in line and you're seeing people coming. Big sigh of relief. They went and they called the Mayday. There was no response. So I'm like, no one's acknowledging the Mayday. And again, what was the right step? What was the next thing to do? What was I supposed to do? So I acknowledged the Mayday, and Captain Bastow at that point in time was again, they were in trouble. Some of his comments that he had made, get to a bedroom, there was other things that were going on back and forth. No one else has still as yet at that time acknowledged the Mayday. Or I guess I acknowledged it, but took it to the next step. So once again, I got back on the radio and stated, dispatch command, we have a Mayday. Do you understand? The hard part with this is since, and talking to people, and a couple of times we've been asked to talk in regards to the new captains that we're going through, the timeline. Very difficult trying to put the timeline into place in regards to how things were actually folding out. Should say unfolding. Boy, seconds seem like minutes and minutes seems like years. But on calling or acknowledging the second Mayday again to dispatch and command, trying to make sure we're getting water. We had a situation of water supply. It wasn't established yet. Down to half a tank. And we now have, with these new nozzles and hose lines, 150 gallons a minute. So all of these constraints are starting to come down. Hearing them inside, almost feeling helpless for the worst of my career for 50 seconds, trying to put this together and what's my next step. I was looking at actually the next step, going back and trying to talk to the crews and do whatever. But then Chief Lloyd Curry came over the radio, and it was like, whew. Now I can start to focus more on making sure they're getting the water and keeping the water flow going. Should I have done anything else different? I'll always ask those questions. But at that time, when things are unfolding the way they are, and everything that seemed to go wrong was going wrong, from access to water supply, the laying of the line, the increased time of the other units having to come in because now they're walking in. So we're now adding 2 minutes to the arrival time technically because you're not really on scene until you're on scene at command or where command post is set. Also, one of the other things that was difficult, we showed up and we had an individual who had jumped and was incoherent. He was of no use to us. So you look and you see a hockey net and you see children's toys and stuff like that out front of the house. That definitely played a part into Captain Bastow and his tactics in regards to what he was doing. We were not sure that that house was clear. There was no way for us to know. I can go back further in my career. I've had fatalities with fires because we did not know they were there. It was long into the call before we actually was able to complete the secondary search and or got the information that these individuals were actually in the home. It has happened. After that, the Mayday got taken over by Chief Curry. Obviously the crews, they got out, 8 come in, found them and got them out. But I can only go back to it from what I saw from the outside and how I was seeing things unfold and the constraints sometimes that were under his crews. So when people have since asked me, what would you do different? What do you think we could do different? One, I know Captain Bastows brought this up earlier. We have certain training skills that we don't do enough, but transfilling, the Maydays, grab live lunar, all this stuff, you know, it's there, but you have to realize nothing really prepares you for when it's real. When you're standing there and this is really happening, this is now, and you don't have 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you don't have a sheet in front of you, a skill sheet that if you missed a couple of X's, you know, or you didn't get a couple of check marks that you pass, well, you know, we can do it again. Next shift we'll come back and try it again. That was right there, then and now. I looked at it in different ways. People go and they say, okay, should you have done this, should you have done that? And I appreciate the questions. The questions are excellent. It does make us think more. But maybe the proper choice of words wasn't used. I said clear the lines. Didn't ask for emergency traffic, but I said clear the lines. Reacted as best as I thought that I could at the time. To look at other things, we have stations, obviously even here in the city, in hydrant areas and stuff like that, that suggestions I would give to officers, to crew members, firefighter engineers. I explained this the other day to new officers that went through their training. Work with your crews, add training in for when this occurs, you show up, you are command, you are now the Mayday. You are no longer command. You're in a Mayday. Second, third, fourth in units, chiefs, platoon captains, they're not there. So what do we do? What are we going to do to keep our members alive? Because one mere moment, and I didn't ask for it, I don't want it, I don't ever want it again. All of a sudden, all this stuff can fall into one person's or several persons' hands. And you try to react the best you can. You try to do what you believe is the right thing. In this circumstance, it all worked out. 3 firefighters still alive, no funerals. And if you think the group of us hasn't sat down and reviewed this over and over and time again, it's always easy after it's all said and done. It's always easy to sit at a table. It's always easy even to be in your station or be in the training ground and train and try and do things. But when it really happens, I can't look anybody in the eye and say that maybe there's stuff better I could have done. I can't. But I know one thing, we've already started working at it harder ourselves. We've already done some drills. We've already sat down and talked more about what we feel we can and can't do at this point in time. So it's just one of those things that's happened. This video, hopefully other stuff we're going to do, is going to hopefully so it doesn't happen again. But we can't train for it not to happen again. We have to train for it that it will happen again so that we know what to do and maybe improve the system or what skills we have to make things better. Sometimes we get complacent, and complacency in regards to certain training drills, certain things that we do. I don't think so much that's a problem with what's happening there. I think this call is exposing or showing some weaknesses within our system, some weaknesses within our command system, and we need to not lay blame or point fingers at anybody. We as an organization, we need to make this better. We need to adapt ourselves for who and what we are, the numbers that we have, the membership that we have, the alarms deployments that we have. What can we do on that level now to make it better? Outside of that, I've always been open to anybody giving a call, asking a couple of questions in regards to what we did or didn't do. It's been excellent. You know, some people have been phoning, but even this morning, we received a phone call a month later from someone that didn't really understand or know what happened. And once you have the opportunity to talk with them, suddenly, you know, they're seeing it in a little bit different light. Not saying they're seeing it in a bad light, but understanding as to what happened. That's why I believe doing this video and talking about this is what we have to do. That's forefront, the starting point, to get it out there that it did happen and it could happen again. So Outside of that, not much more I can say. It's something that I never ever thought in my entire career, ever, that something like this was going to happen. I'm glad it worked out. So outside of that, hopefully, we'll see what train division has to do with this and going on a move forward basis. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Terrio. I'm a captain at Station 10 on B Platoon. I've been asked by the train division to talk about the Mayday fire that we had on Sackville Drive a few weeks back. So the call came in at approximately 4:20-ish, and like most structure fire calls, we had about 25 pieces of gear toned out. So by the time we jumped in the truck, we read the information on the MDT and got on our way. So Barry Basto was first to arrive, and I've been to a few fires with Barry. Him and I seem to work pretty well together. He did his initial arrival report like any other. It was a small house, smoke showing from the second floor. He did his 360, and he announced that they were in the offensive strategy and were preparing to run a line. We were second in. I knew on the way that it would be a coin flip between us and 8 because the call was almost to Cobblecourt Road. And I decided on the way that we were going to take the hydrant before the driveway to the auction direct. And we had pulled over and had taken the hydrant when Barry got on the radio and instructed 8 engine to take the hydrant. I knew it didn't really matter if it was us or 8, so I didn't even bother getting on the radio to tell Barry that we were doing it because 8 was facing us at the time and they knew that we had the hydrant, so 8 prepared to make their way up when we were stretching our feed. So it was an unusually long feed because we had to go in the parking lot of Auction Direct, around a bunch of cars, and then up in back. And we actually dropped all the feed that we had off of 10 Tanker, and then myself and my operator that day, Gary Gaudette, and Darren Casey, hand-bombed about 6 lengths back to make the connection. So while that was going on, I had a look at the house, and there was a lot of turbulent smoke coming from the second floor, and Barry and his guys were inside already. And I knew that they hadn't hit the fire yet because the smoke hadn't changed from the time we got there. So we were a little bit delayed getting the feed just because we were pulling 6 lengths down the driveway there. And then we eventually made the connection, and my crew was still a little bit fractured at the time because we had guys at the hydrant. Gary and I were pulling high vol. But in my mind, I was thinking that we would probably be second in with Barry. So while my crew was getting together, I decided I should do another 360 just because of the delayed amount of time between us being second into that fire and what would normally happen. So anyway, I did a second 360. I actually went up on the back deck and took a peek inside the window of the patio, and it was smoke down to the floor, but I didn't see anything too unusual. And as I was making my way around, I did notice fire showing in a little tiny window that was underneath the front deck and buried in garbage. There was like a stationary bike and some other crap just piled all around it. So super easy to miss these small windows. Anyway, by that time, and again, I'm not positive on the sequence of events because it was all pretty compressed and pretty chaotic at the time, but Barry's Mayday and our stretching the second line, and I recognized that there was a basement fire, and I got firefighter Gillis to go on air, crawl underneath the patio and put a line on the basement fire. And Barry's Mayday all happened around a minute or two of each other, and then Lloyd showed up, and I went over and told Lloyd that there was a basement fire. And as most people have heard the audio for that fire, Lloyd's first question to the people calling the Mayday was, what's your location? Because as soon as I told Lloyd that there was a basement fire, in his mind, Barry and his crew went in the front door and went through the floor to the basement. So Lloyd initially wasn't even thinking that they were on the second floor. He was thinking that they were down in the basement where the fire was. So there was, I think it was Avery that actually answered Lloyd and said that they were on the second floor, which was critical information for the next in crew. I know because my crew was split up running the feed, we didn't end up being the second in. The second in ended up being Jake Green and his crew. And as soon as they had the information where Barry and those guys were up on the second floor, they were able to just follow their line in, and the heat situation that they had encountered had diminished, I guess because we hit the basement fire. But they were able to just walk in the front door, follow the line, up the stairs, call for those guys, and lead them out the front door, which was good that they were able to do that because it averted tragedy. Again, I don't know, I assume most people have heard the audio, and you've already probably heard from Barry. The guys were up there, they had a heat situation, they had one of the firefighters had his mask knocked off, then they had a low air emergency, they were looking to bail out into a bedroom that ended up not having a door. So a lot of small things happened that could have resulted in tragedy. And I've been on for 30 years, and that's probably as close as I've ever seen to one of us getting hurt really badly, and it was pretty scary. So looking back on the situation, I've asked myself a bunch of times, what would I have done differently? What will I do better next time? So personally, I feel that I dropped the ball when the Mayday was called. I should have just assumed command. So Mayday, 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 and I should have said, dispatch Captain Terry, assuming staff will drive command, give me emergency tones, and then run the Mayday. I'm pretty confident that I could run a Mayday, but we were sort of in that dead zone that I had never even talked about or trained for, or it was just like, who runs the Mayday? Command. Who runs the Mayday when command is calling the Mayday? Nobody knows. Nobody knows because it doesn't happen, and we didn't talk about it, and there was just a lot of us wondering who should do what. And in that void, it seemed like forever, but I know looking back at the timelines, it wasn't very long. But next time, that's my takeaway from it. Next time, I will just step up and assume command. And I know Barry said the same thing, and Jake Green said the same thing. But it was just one of those voids that we hadn't really talked about. So that's the takeaway for myself. One of the things that I talked about when we did our debrief was advice that you would give to a new firefighter. So my advice after this incident, and I've said this to new firefighters in the past, is be aware of your own situation, your own location, your own air situation, because I know in my career, I've worked for really good captains that I've had 100% faith in, that they'd always know where we were and that they'd always know the situation. And having more time on the job, you realize it doesn't take much to get turned around in a smoke-filled building. And you might not be paying attention to where the windows are. You might not be paying attention to where the doors are or what level you're on or any of that, because you've got such faith in your captain. So my advice to the new firefighters is be aware of that sort of stuff, because your captain might turn to you and say, I'm not sure where we are. I took 2 lefts and I thought we were here, but I'm not sure where we are. And when your captain turns to you and asks you that, and you say, gee, I thought you knew, well, then you're both someplace you don't want to be. So that would be my takeaway for myself and for young firefighters. And we all got really lucky that night. That's about it. Just a couple more things that I wanted to add in. After the Mayday was called and the firefighters were brought out by 8 engine, of course the fire was still rolling, the smoke was still coming out. So anyway, after, it was almost like everybody took a second and was like, okay, whew, that was close. And then we decided we had to put another crew in. So myself and Shravan Joshi and Mike Sears and his crew were first into the basement fire. So we went in, I went in first, Shravan behind me, sounding the stairs as we go down. And it was, I was going pretty slow because I thought the stairs were burning, so I expected them to be compromised. They didn't end up being that, but we found the fire at the bottom of the stairs to the left, burnt out room basically, with still some active fire. But what I wanted to mention was when we got pulled out and I took my mask off, the first thing that I noticed and everybody around me was telling me was that I stunk like gas. So there was a 20-liter gas can on the first landing of the stairs that had obviously been dumped all over the stairs. So the fire that was rolling up the stairwell was probably, a lot of it was the gas driving it and the fact that it was in the flow path of the upstairs. So I just wanted to mention that. If nobody else mentioned it, there was a lot of gas involved there. And something else I want to talk about is, in the fire department, it's easy to armchair quarterback everything after the fact. And as one of the few people that was actually there at 4 a.m., seeing the smoke rolling out the second floor window, and I did the 360, and I likely would have taken my crew up to the second floor as well. So any of the armchair quarterbacks that think they would have done it differently, you can't be too sure about that. And the last thing I want to mention was, for the new captains out in the rural and maybe some of the actors, be aware when you're taking your crew and pushing into a structure fire where your backup might be coming from, because this could have turned out a lot differently if we didn't have 8 engine on the porch ready to go in when Lloyd told them that they were on the second floor and just to follow the line in. So just be aware where your help's coming from when you need it. Thanks.
Good day, my name is Captain Barry Bastow, B Platoon, 9 Station, Lower Sackville. I'm just going to briefly go over a call that we had there on February 27th, 2021 at 04:25 hours in the AM. That day, working that day, was myself, driver engineer was Darren Casey, and the 2 firefighters in the back were Avery Curlick and Matt Stone. We received a call at 04:25 hours. It came in as a working structure fire. When we received the call, we had additional information that there was a gentleman who had jumped out of the second-story window onto the front lawn. There was smoke showing from the second story. As well, we had information regarding the location of the residence. The Civic was 115 Sackville Drive. It was behind 117 Sackville Drive, which is a used car dealership, auctioneering dealership. And there was a gate. When receiving this information that there was a occupant who had jumped out and there was a gate to gain access, looking at the NBT, I realized that the lay for the hydrant was going to be very long, anywhere from 800 to 900 feet, roughly. I then struck a second alarm. As well, ensured that EHS was en route for the occupant who was in the structure, and RCMP were on scene. When we made arrival, RCMP had already breached the gate with one of their vehicles. We had to haul up inside the parking lot in front of the dealership and back to the residence. When we got to the residence, it was a medium 2-story house, smoke showing on the alpha side, 2nd-story window. I told the crew automatically deploy the line as I conducted my 360. When conducting my 360, I started off in the Bravo, made my way to the Charlie and to the Delta. On the Bravo side, the foundation was probably around 1.5 to 2 feet from the ground. There was nothing showing, no windows. That was indicating a basement. More looked like it was probably a crawl space under the house itself. Went to the Charlie side. There was 2 windows in the rear and patio doors leading to a balcony. Went there, looked underneath the deck. Again, no windows. Again, 1.5 to 2 feet from the ground level and then siding. Get to the Charlie, exact same thing as the Bravo side. Made my way around to the front again. The line was deployed. Firefighter engineer Darren Casey then relayed to us to let them know when to charge the line. I told the crew that we're going to make entry, Alpha side, front door, right-hand search, find the stairs, make our way up to the 2nd floor for initial fire attack and for a search. So that was our initial plan. Told dispatch we're still in the offensive strategy, and we proceeded. As well, hearing 8 engine coming in the distance, I could hear them coming from the direction. Informed them to catch a feed, a water supply, and to once that is established, take a secondary line, make their way to the 1st floor with the line. Made entry to the house. Smoke was probably banked maybe 3 feet from the floor, maybe. You can get down low, you can see like a sofa, table. We brought the line in, brought the line in, found the stairs, the stairway, going up to the 2nd floor, went up the stairs, 3rd or 4th tread, 0 visibility. Not much heat at that time, a little bit, not much. We get up to the stairs, and we ran short of hose. And the stairs went up and turned again to the 2nd floor. I yelled out to Firefighter Kurlik to get more hose. We need more hose to advance in order to get to the seat of the fire. And he ran back to the first pinch point and started directing hose inside the structure for us. With that, I assisted, went down the stairs halfway, and there was like a bend. I assisted there, got the hose up. So he was working extremely hard to advance the hose to us. Get up the stairs, we advance the line, we do a left-hand search to make our way back to the Alpha, where the seat of the fire I thought it was. We get there, and firefighter Matt Stone advanced the line within the room. I was at the doorway, I knew it was a doorway, again, 0 visibility, but I could feel the doorway. I got on my knee, put my hand in the doorway, put my foot next to the line as Matt was advancing it, and I was assisting him. And then as he was in there, I took the camera up and I looked, we'll start looking for the fire. Heat was starting to pick up. It was getting, it wasn't extremely hot, but it was your typical structure fire heat. I couldn't see it, I couldn't hear it, I couldn't hear no crackling, no hissing. So I said, maybe it's in the attic, maybe it's in the walls. So I looked in the attic, looked in the walls. As this is occurring, Firefighter Stone is asking, where's the fire? I then relayed back to him verbally, Matt, I don't know where the fire is, I'm trying to locate it, can't find it. With that, we decided to back the line out of the room. As we back the line out and not be able to find the fire with the camera or see it or feel it, now the heat started to pick up more. Firefighter Kurlik came up the stairs, unbeknownst to I knew he was there, but we're backing the line out. 99.9% sure I banged into him. When I did bang into him, he fell down to the ground, down to by the stairs, fell backward, down by the stairs, dislodged his face piece, took in some smoke. I did not know he took in smoke at that time, but I can hear him. As I'm trying to figure out what's going on with him, because I could hear that something had happened, his low pressure alarm starts sounding. And then with that, I was pretty sure I was facing toward Matt, still with the line. He yells out, the fire is behind us. I was thinking we're going to back the line up where his low pressure alarm was going off. That wasn't the case. Pretty much simultaneously, when that alarm sounded, the fire came up over the half wall and hit the back of Firefighter Kurlik by his helmet. I then called a Mayday immediately because of the fire conditions were below us. I was thinking that the first floor was starting to flash. The heat picked up tremendously. The heat was like skyrocketed. I grabbed Avery. I threw him back. I took the line out of Firefighter Stone's hand, flipped around, hit the fire, opened up the nozzle full bore, and started doing the circle pattern down the stairwell. As I'm doing this, I'm telling the crew to stick together. We got to find a window. We're going to have the egress out of a window due to the fact our egress where we came in is compromised due to fire conditions and heated conditions. So within saying that, as I'm hitting it, maybe for 30 seconds, I'm thinking, the heat wasn't long. The heat was maybe 20, 30 seconds of extreme heat. Then we were still wearing it, but the conditions didn't get worse. We proceeded to look for a window, and we got disoriented. In the master bedroom in the front and the alpha side, there was actually like a jacuzzi, a bathtub in the master bedroom. So we were thinking, like, where we're in, it was like probably like 2 feet off the floor with tile. So when we were doing it first, Matt thought it was a wall. Then we went back in. Then we found out it was a bathtub or jacuzzi. We thought it was a bathtub at the time. So we're disoriented. I was searching for a means of egress, like I said, out of a window. Got disoriented, ended up in the laundry room twice. Anyway, I called, declared another Mayday. You can hear me saying in the Mayday, if you heard the radio transmission, guys, get to a bedroom, go, go, go. So within saying that, as all this is transpiring, I go to find out that Captain Steve Theriault from 10 Station, Millwood, Middle Sackville, upon his arrival, when he got there, he initially thought it could have been a contents bedroom fire, but he seen the smoke condition that was starting to be turbulent and aggressive out the second floor window. As that was coming out the second floor window, he knew we weren't hitting the fire due to the conditions. He decided to do a 360. Upon his 360, he came around, went for the Bravo, Charlie Delta, came right back to the Alpha. He seen an orange glow underneath the front deck, realizing it was a basement fire. So he initially had a line deployed, a secondary line deployed to make entry on the Alpha side. He took the line, gave it to firefighter Lindsay Gillis, and told her to directly hit the fire underneath the deck to see the fire that was in the basement. Unbeknownst to us, that wasn't relayed to us on the second floor. We're still thinking the fire's on the first floor and that we're in need of egress and having an air emergency disorientation. We knew we had to get out of a window due to the conditions. Within saying that, what happened was the 8 engine arrived, and then the DC2 arrived. District Chief 2 was Lloyd Curry. He took full control at the time, preventing Captain Jake Green from entering with his crew till we found out our location. His initial thought was that we're in the basement. He found out very quickly our location. Thinking again, we went to the first floor and went down inside the basement. And once he found our location, firefighter Avery Kurlick, he informed him once he was rating what's your location, where are you, can you egress, etc. Firefighter Kurlick basically said to him, we are located on the second floor Alpha side. So he knew we were on the second floor. So within saying that, he deployed 8 engine crew with Captain Jake Green to the second floor. And when we heard Jake's voice in the stairwell, I personally was confused. I'm thinking, like, how did he get up here? I initially thought they knocked the fire down on the first floor, so we just followed his voice. Avery Kurlick went first, then Matt, and then myself followed the line out, and we're still disoriented. Even when we got to the first floor, we're still disoriented. Firefighter man and boys told us to stay in line, stay in the line. So we went out on the line, we get outside and gave DC Lloyd Curry a par. I think a numerous factors that prevented this from becoming a firefighter fatality or fatalities is Captain Steve Theriault's quick thinking, doing a 360, noticing it was a basement fire at that time. The heat had blown the window out, seeing that it was a visible basement fire, applying water onto it immediately, knocking the fire down internal on the interior over the half wall. DC Lloyd Curry taking quick action to deploy somebody in to get us. All these factors contributed especially for firefighter Avery Kurlick, from not running out of air. He was literally probably, had a few breaths left in his cylinder for sure. So I think all these factors contributed to the success of us leaving the structure safely. As well, firefighter engineer Darren Casey, he was the one who addressed or replied to the Mayday. His quick thinking as well, informed me how much water we had, 250 gallons. He said we had left in the tank for the quint. All these factors contributed tremendously in the success of us not becoming another statistic, in my opinion. Having the line is the most important thing you can have with you. We never had a line then doing a search or whatever. We had to do a search without a line, which was practiced on years ago. That fire would 1,000,000% came on us, and we were right in the flow path. This is as well, the basement did not have a door. The bedroom we were in did not have a door. So the fire and smoke had a free reign, like the chimney effect, up the stairwell, and then over us and out that half open window where the victim jumped out. So again, everything worked out. As firefighter engineer Darren Casey said, everybody had their fingers in the dam to prevent the dam from collapsing and becoming catastrophic. So everything worked out. Everybody walked away. Was it a good experience? No, it wasn't. I felt and I knew that the conditions were deteriorating very rapidly. I can't explain it, but I just knew. I knew my limitations. And I wasn't in a panic. I wasn't in a panic, but I was severely amped up. I knew that we had to get out for firefighter Kerlick, firefighter Matt Stone, and obviously myself. I knew that the conditions were going, and it was a sense of urgency. It got bad quick. But again, everything worked out in the end. So thanks to 10 engine, 8 engine, DC Curry, obviously my driver engineer Darren Casey, and everybody else who partook and made this a successful outcome.
What can you tell new firefighters of your experience? And was there anything that you would change in your initial action plan?
That's a good question. First off, for my initial action plan, I know for me personally, from now on, if I enter a structure with that sort of circumstance, with no visual for the basement, if it's a lookout, if it's a walkout, whatever, if I can't visually see what's in the basement, and we had to make entry on the first floor, I know next time I'll be taking a look with the TIC camera. I won't rely on the TIC camera because it is a tool and it can fail. But I will take a quick look with the TIC camera. I will look at the floor for any sort of heat trace. I will look, obviously, your top, middle, bottom to ensure I have a visual to ensure that the fire is located on the second floor if there's smoke showing on the first floor, because there was smoke on the first floor. So again, that should have been a cue, but to me, it just seemed like it was just a simple 10-cent fire, bedroom contents, put it out, do some overhaul, PVV, and then pack up and go back to the station. But that wasn't such the case, so that wasn't the case. As well, for new firefighters, I highly recommend that you train in skills, survival skills, your transfill. That circumstance there, I'm not saying transfer would have been a success. It's very difficult to do with, obviously, with the dexterity of your hands to do that as well. Just be aware of your surroundings. Knowing conditions is the biggest thing, I think. Understanding fire behavior, right? Understanding that, when you see fire, you cannot do anything to a fire if you're above it. You can apply water onto it and give yourself some time. But when that fire comes up, that fire will come up again. Smoke is flammable. Smoke is suspended particulates that will catch fire with heated conditions. And we're heading in that direction for sure. Just know your job, know your skills, remain calm. Did I remain calm? That's to be said. But I knew what I was doing the whole time. I knew what I was doing. I tried to keep the crew together, trying to find a way out. But it was just a concoction of compressed difficulties, one after the other. It was not finding the fire. Then having Avery taking smoke, low pressure alarm going off, fire coming up behind us, the heat, right? All these factors just compressed, getting disoriented, always maintain contact with the wall, right? You get disoriented in your own house, in your own residence, easily. Always maintain contact with the wall and contact with your line. And I ensured that with the crew. I told them when everything was going south to stick together, stay in the line, we're getting out of here. So, yeah, stick together, right? Crew integrity, stay together. Stay together. Don't freelance, because the outcome could have been much, much, much worse. So, yeah, know your job.
Okay, my name's Avery Karyaluk. I'm an acting captain out of Station 9. I've been in the fire service almost 12 years. I've been asked to come today to talk about my experience at 117 Southfield Drive. Started out as a regular routine, house fire. Early morning, we had a new fella with us. I was with a very experienced crew. Darren Casey, the driver, Barry Bastow, the captain. I was on back with the new fella. En route to the fire, we had reports that there was a gentleman had to jump out of a second-story window, so we knew we had something. Upon arrival, we deployed inch and three-quarter line to the Alpha side. Captain Bastow did his 360. On the outset, it looked like it was going to be a fun little fire, just another routine in and out, wanted to give the new guy some experience. So I told Matt to grab the nozzle, deploy that to the front door. I met him around over. Just about that time, I was finished forcing the door to make entry. Captain Bastow confirmed with me. All signs indicated to me that it was a second-story fire. I was looking around the whole house. I had a brief, informal little consultation with Barry. He told me, it's on the second floor. I agreed. So after we made entry, there was, probably about 3 feet up from the ground. We saw, we could make out the room somewhat. We found the staircase relatively quickly. Barry wanted to go in on the line, so originally I thought I was going to be behind Matt, backing him up on the nozzle, and Barry was going to probably be feeding hose. Change of plans. Barry just came by me like a raging bull. He went right to the front and was right behind Matt, so I said, okay, I guess I'm going to be feeding hose. So I started feeding hose, and I could hear them upstairs. Zero visibility, and so I'm feeding hose in zero vis, and there was 3 or 4 choke points, so I was expending my air quite quickly. I was running and feeding hose as fast as I could. I could hear them upstairs. They couldn't find the seat of the fire. I could hear their frustration growing. They had enough hose, so I decided I was going to join them up top and help them find the seat of the fire. So it wasn't long after I got to the top of the staircase. I was trying to call out to them and try and become oriented myself to see where they were. I wasn't at the top of the staircase for probably what seemed like just a few seconds. Shortly thereafter, I felt just regular heat, like any other house fire you'd been in, just enough that you couldn't probably stand up straight. I was kind of just ducking down a little bit. And then it hit me. I can only surmise I was caught in the flow path. My helmet being burnt up and the intense amount of heat that I felt instantly drove me to the floor. And I started to call out to them that I had found the fire. And when I turned over my left shoulder, I could see nothing but an orange glow all over top of my head and all around to the back of me. So it startled me. I alerted the crew as fast as I could. And somewhere in that next few moments, I found myself what felt like a punch to the head. And I don't know if it was from me falling or if it was Captain Bastow, trying to maneuver the hose, but it felt like a punch to the head. The pain was substantial, and I found myself unable to function. My mask had been dislodged to the side. Luckily, I think my flash hood protected my side of my face, And there was a minor amount of smoke I think I took in, and so I was quite rattled by the experience. And so anyway, I managed to fight my face piece back on, and at this point, Captain Bastow had already deduced what I had already figured out, that the fire was beneath us. And shortly thereafter, I sorted myself out and got my face piece back on. I experienced memory loss at that point. Maybe it was from being startled or not knowing the outcome, but I knew that our egress was now compromised. In a daze, I vaguely recall hearing Barry yelling for us to get to the bedroom, and then I heard a Mayday go out. So I had concluded Barry, he knew what was happening. So with no clear route of egress, we just were getting as low as we could and trying to get far away from that flow path, that intense heat that I'd experienced moments ago. So unbeknownst to me, Barry had taken the hose from Matt Stone, and he was suppressing, the fire in that general direction, which cooled it down, which I'm positive that contributed to him saving us from being burned up there. At that point, I was no longer a firefighter. I was just trying to stay alive. And then, to make matters worse, as if it wasn't already bad enough, my low air alarm started to sound. And at that moment, I could still see glow of fire. We knew we were in trouble. And luckily, Captain Bastow had enough wit about him to call out the Mayday. And I listened to the tape afterwards. I don't really even recall responding to the chief. It was a surprise to me to even hear the conversation, so that can give you an idea of the state of mind that I was in at that time. I knew I only had moments of air, so transfill was on my mind, but just having taken that blast of heat, flashover was really on my mind. So I could hear them searching. I could hear pounding on the walls, and I knew they were trying to find us a way out, because we needed to find a window, because the staircase, at least at that time, we just assumed that that wasn't a tenable escape route. So I stayed as still as I could, just trying to preserve my air and just praying that they found that window before my bottle expired. So anyway, luckily, 8 engine came in, and imagine our surprise when we could hear voices below us. I was very confused, because I couldn't understand how they had just managed to come up that stairwell after just experiencing that intense level of heat. We thought the first floor had flashed. So when we heard voices coming beneath us and then up the stairs, I wasn't complaining. They said, follow us, and all I remember is somebody coming in front of me. I didn't see them until they were basically right in front of me. And I remember just throwing myself with what little strength I had left onto them, just kind of how you'd piggyback your kid. And I kind of threw my arms on there, and whoever it was, I later found out it was Captain Green on 8 engine. And they took us out, and anyway, we got out, talked, and realized what had just happened. And then come to find out it was the application of water to the basement fire. And quick thinking by Darren Casey that, he acknowledged our Mayday, which helped us, helped the chief and all the incoming crews realize that there was an emergency in progress. So takeaways from it, things that, maybe I could have done differently was definitely air management. I've always kind of prided myself on working hard and getting the job done as efficiently and as fast as possible. So I didn't check my air. feeding that hose as fast and as hard as I did came at a cost. And then when I found myself upstairs, trapped with no air, maybe I should have been paying more attention. Suggestions for other people, maybe something that they could take away from it is take your training seriously. Really practice those emergency drills. Know your gear. Know how to do a blindfold. Do a transfill until you can do it just as easily with your eyes open, with your eyes closed. Really talk about things at the beginning of your shift with your crew, just minor little issues that if we had gone over a few little things, it maybe would have been a bit smoother. But I guess the reason we're alive is because we had experienced crew members there that took swift, decisive action and worked together a team, and everybody had their part to play. And I'm very fortunate that I was with the crew that I was. I know those guys they're the best. And thanks to them, I'm here today. And I'm very thankful.